Welcome back to another reaction, and today I'm going to look at some Professor Layton music. I've actually played one of the games. I don't remember what it was. I think it was on the DS. It is a series that I have respect for and I have a little awareness of, but not much. I've heard one or two pieces of music from the series that I did really like in the past, just kind of randomly. And here we are going to listen to a recommendation for a piece called Folsense, which is apparently the name of the main town in this game, sort of an eerie, mysterious town. The name Folsense kind of, I don't know, maybe like folly or foolishness or something suspicious in a sense of the place or an atmosphere. But yeah, sounds like it's the setting for the entire game, so this might just be the main background music for a lot of the game, which might mean it's a high-effort piece for the soundtrack. And we're going to listen to the original and then to a live version from a different soundtrack CD, supposedly. And I look forward to hearing what it sounds like in the different version. And yeah, it's from Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box. Apparently it's also sometimes called Professor Layton and the or in Pandora's Box in Europe, if I have my facts straight, which is interesting because it definitely makes you think of a lot of things and honestly makes me want to play the game. Like, Layton and Pandora's Box is such a cool title, so I'm kind of curious. But anyways, let's give it a listen. Let's see what the original game's piece is like. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be like, other than it probably will support just being a presence in the city, like throughout the game passively. So it might have the capacity to function as background music, but we'll see. It's just calm solo piano, a little bit French. Now it's really French. I can't believe it. I kind of called that. I'm just gonna say. Yep, just kind of adds one layer at a time gradually. Just the slow vibrato. I love the pacing of the vibrato picked for that. Okay, get a dominant 7 there. A suspension. Are we going to resolve? Yeah. Now he passed this melody that was in the piano to what sounds like a strings, but it could even be like a simulation of a different instrument, something less common. It's sometimes hard to solo synths, and you don't necessarily need to associate it with a specific instrument. It just oftentimes is composed with that in mind. Yeah, it's the sort of like harmonies being used, just sort of a little bit like meandering and peaceful, not super directional in terms of the harmonic progression. Again, I said right away it feels sort of French, and then it brought in the instrumentation that made it even more French. But I was just calling that out because it reminds me of things like an Eric Satie kind of piano piece. There's obviously difference, and he has a lot of even avant-garde, like kind of crazy stuff. But his, famous pieces like the Gymnopédie, people are kind of familiar. That's fairly well known with that kind of like. It's got this back and forth sort of lilting, very much like that piece, and sometimes like a borderline directionless harmony, which is not meant to sound like a criticism because it's just a different style and it creates a different feeling. Again, it's less goal-oriented. It obviously did resolve with a traditional cadence that had a dominant 7 into that resolution. So it's not that it doesn't have harmonic direction, but there's just a feeling of this kind of era of French music, of which Satie is like, some of his pieces famously fit that, not most of his output, that's lesser known. But yeah, just this more common in some French music of that era, kind of early 1900s. And yeah, it just kind of makes you feel a little bit static and calm in place. Again, perfect for, like I said, it might need to facilitate being music in the background, and it's really doing that. It does sound like it's setting you being in, a little town in France, maybe a part of Paris, who knows. But yeah, it's just very subtle, and it really evokes that era and style of music, even just in the piano writing. It's just very cozy. And I would say, despite the fact that it sounds like maybe the game's quite mysterious, it's not putting that in your face in this piece, at least not yet. As far as like, if this is the main theme generally for the town you're in through the game, and you come back to this a lot, and probably like first encounter it very early in the game, I would think that this is quite appropriate, because you might not want to like really hit the player over the head with like oddness and mystery like that you have to hear constantly very boldly in the music. You kind of want this like, it's not completely happy, it's not completely sad, it's in that kind of like little bit indeterminate calm space in the middle, which again is this sort of French idiom that I'm thinking of, which well suits background music where you want it to sound sort of normal and supporting different things the player's doing from the beginning of the game, but also has the potential there for emotions that can be construed as mysterious, but without, again, hitting you over the head with it. Like, it's not trying to make this sound eerie, even though I assume this town is kind of eerie. Anyways, let's continue. Yeah, it's definitely very hypnotic. Yeah. Oh, you get to double in some more instruments here. Actually, this might have happened before, because I remember that slow vibrato, which I think is just an excellent choice. Just is really lovely. I like the pacing. And then, yeah, that's just very, very bold suspension. There's kind of repeated melodic patterns for sure. But yeah, they just kind of like give you a little bit of a hug. It's kind of a sad hug. Coming to the end, probably looping back and then fading out. Yeah, I can really feel that like playing this game would really capture like the imagination while just going through the game's pacing. Like, I feel like this would be very memorable playing the game. Like, even if it's like subtle and comfortable, I do think it like has a feeling, it has really quite a clear melody, even if it's again, not extremely directional, but it still has a melody that I feel like would really get stuck in your brain. You probably hear this a lot in the game, I'm guessing, and come back to it a lot, and it just like supports just the right mood, and yeah, I feel like it would really be an earworm, despite the fact that like a melody like this kind of style harmonically of writing, because it's like less aggressively directional, it's less rigid, it has less, how you would say, like signposted moments to make the progression of the melody like more memorable, to stick in your mind. It doesn't have those obvious signposts that make it easy to find catchy. But I think it still is something that would get stuck in your head when you hear it enough. Point is, like, it sounds good enough that despite not having the qualities that usually make something immediately easy to remember, I think it's like memorable enough that it still would become remembered by people as they're playing, or at least I feel like I would. Anyways, I'm going to switch over to a live version of this. I'm really curious. Pretty excited about this. I'm going to pick this video and see if this is the right one. If it's not, I will go find it. so I'm wondering some of the instruments I couldn't really place in the synth, but they're gonna sound like in this. Yeah, there's a little bit more of a swell in this kind of accordion sound. I assume it's accordion. There it is. Yeah, the piano sound isn't too different from the game, but this is just stunning. Beautiful cello playing. You know, I specifically like appreciated the slow vibrato they gave in the game, and it's being captured gorgeously on this cello. Really elevates it. Yes. Yeah, you know, at first I was like, is this even different? Like, just because the piano used here is not like the ideal piano sound for me. Like, I would love it to sound a little richer. So it almost sounded like exactly, or very close to the game's capture of the piano. So at first I was like, is this actually different? I'm not sure what I'm hearing. But then once these other instruments come in, it's like, wow, this is like clearly, you know, highly elevated. It's just, the melody sounds so much more beautiful with these instruments. The cello is just, the performance on it is fantastic. Excellent musician there, and just having these real instruments acoustically is really a joy. Like, it lets these melodies shine. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to sound this good, like this much of a difference, especially when the start sounded quite similar. I'm going to back up and listen to a little more of it. It's really tender playing with a lot of dynamics. It's doing a lot with that single melody line. And this sounds amazing too. I really got to learn my woodwinds so I can confidently say which one this is. That's embarrassing, but it's fine, you know. We all have our weaknesses. Maybe it'll become a meme. And then we get this doubling, but with these real instruments. Oh, this is just what I wanted. That's a great pairing as well. Yeah, there's so much parallel between these instruments. They're playing the same line. So, it, you know, when instruments are doubling or tripling the same line like here, you know, it does, instead of creating that counterpoint, it creates like a certain sound when you're layering certain instruments on the same notes. So it's a totally different feel now. Oh, interesting. Okay. We're doing something different here. Got this drum kit, the little cymbals, a little bit of ornamentation on the piano. Yeah, that was interesting. Man, that big echoey crash. Yes, a lot of creative instrumentation here, and honestly, this is a great piece to do it with because it's got such a hypnotic, like stable, you know, meditative kind of feel. It's a framework you can really work with, experimenting with instruments. Bit of sort of improvisational detailing. Ooh, I like the... Yeah, I like that little you know, da 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 da. You could kind of hear it in the piano. I think that's a great idea, supporting this section. It sounded really nice, even if it was subtle. You can listen to the piano kind of descend here. Right here. Yeah, the piano style is starting to change a lot. Getting a little more freedom. Everything's kind of soloing a little bit more. Very cool. Yes. As usual when soloing, you have like a stable bass that you're working over. And this piece is a great bass for this kind of soloing. Yes, this is what I wanted. Yes. Great moment. Yes. Things are probably pulling back a bit now for the end. Yeah. Some cymbals. Set up a perfect fade out. Yes. Oh, that was lovely. Man, the whole sort of increased instrumentation into this sort of soloing was great. Again, I mentioned a couple times, but it just, you know, that's exactly what you want. You want a strong, stable framework to, you know, do variation on top of. You know, that's what jazz soloing typically is. Like the rest of the band keeps playing the same sort of pattern while someone has the freedom to do what they want to do on top of it. This piece is a great, stable base for that, and I'm really glad they did it. But I still think my favorite part of this is just hearing just the real instruments come in and just play beautifully on these melodies. Like this whole section is so memorable to me. Just like, man, like if they just took this like first half that is more like the original track with these instruments, and just if that was in a game, I think it would just be absolutely stunning, like just elevating that composition, letting the melodies really shine. And then it's super fun that they go into, you know, get more exploratory with different instruments and different ornamentation and different soloing. It's like a, you know, perfect thing to do it with. But yeah, that was very cool. I really enjoyed hearing these live instruments in it, and them both elevating it and then doing something different with it. And I'm wondering, what playlist am I going to want to put this on? Because it's, in a way, it almost feels like it's forest core, and it's kind of beautiful tranquility. I also kind of feel like it could go under like solo piano, because there's quite a bit of it. And it's also almost chill and nostalgia. Man, it is hard to make playlists that contain a lot of this stuff, but I think it's gonna go here. That is a long title. I'm gonna say the live version. There we go. There you have it. This was me taking a look at this from Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box, Folsense, and yeah, maybe I'll do more Layton music in the future. The couple things I heard from it are really great, and yeah, hope you had a good time watching, and I will see you in my next reaction. Until then, hope everything goes well.